Cold cases, unsolved crime cases, and unsolved disappearances are all things that I love to explore, and I know you do too. You intriguing and intellectually minded person. Today, we are discussing a very interesting cold case known as the vanishing of the pregnant student, the Bethany Anne Decker mystery. And let me tell you, this one will keep you on the edge of your seat, or maybe make you fall off it entirely. But before we dive deep into this rabbit hole, and trust me, it's deeper than my coffee addiction. If you're new here and love unraveling mysteries as much as I love unraveling my Christmas sweaters, hit that subscribe button. It's free. Unlike my therapy sessions after researching these cases. Picture this: Loudoun County, Virginia, January 29th, 2011. A normal day for most, but for one family, it would become the beginning of an 11-year nightmare that continues to this day. And no, this isn't the start of a Netflix series, though honestly, it probably should be. Bethany Anne Decker was a 21-year-old student at George Mason University. Now, most college students' biggest worry is whether they'll make it to their 8 a.m. class. But Bethany, she was juggling more plates than a circus performer. She was working as a waitress, pursuing her degree. And here's the kicker: she was 5 months pregnant. But wait, there's more. And no, this isn't a late-night infomercial, though the twists in this case might keep you up just as late. Bethany was married to Emil Decker, a U.S. Army soldier deployed in Afghanistan. Simple enough, right? Wrong. She was also involved in a relationship with Ronald Roldan, her coworker. And if you're thinking this sounds complicated, trust me, we're just getting started. Before we continue with this wild ride, and believe me, it's about to get wilder than my hair in humid weather, take a moment to drop a like if you're already invested in this case. It helps the algorithm show more true crime content to fellow mystery lovers like yourself. The last confirmed sighting of Bethany was at her apartment in Ashburn, Virginia. She lived there with Roldan while her husband was deployed. On January 29, 2011, security cameras caught her entering her apartment building. After that, she vanished into thin air like my motivation during a diet. Now, here's where things get interesting. And by interesting, I mean more twisted than a pretzel in a tornado. Nobody reported Bethany missing until February 19th. That's 3 weeks, folks. 3 weeks where no one had questioned her absence. How does a pregnant college student just disappear without anyone raising an alarm? If you're as baffled as I am right now, and trust me, I'm more confused than a chameleon in a bag of Skittles, make sure you're subscribed and have notifications turned on. What do you think happened to Bethany? Was it a planned disappearance, or something more sinister? Leave your theories in the comments below, and let's play detective together. Remember, sometimes the most obvious answer isn't always the right one, kind of like my attempts at following GPS directions. So, where were we? Yes, February 19th, 2011. Bethany's family finally reported her missing, and that's when things got more complicated than trying to fold a fitted sheet. The first red flag: Bethany's car, a 2002 Acura, was found parked in her apartment complex. Now, you might think, what's so weird about that? Well, get this, it was covered in dust and hadn't moved in weeks. For a busy college student who worked as a waitress, that's about as normal as finding a penguin in the Sahara. Now, let's talk about the two men in Bethany's life. And buckle up, because this gets more tangled than my earbuds after being in my pocket for 5 seconds. First, we have Emil Decker, Bethany's husband. He was serving in Afghanistan, but had returned home for leave from January 18th to February 2nd, 2011. The plot twist: he was one of the last people to see Bethany alive, along with Ronald Roldan. Speaking of plot twists, if you're enjoying this deep dive into the case, smash that like button harder than I smash my alarm snooze button. Now, let's talk about Ronald Roldan, Bethany's coworker turned boyfriend. And when I say this guy has red flags, I mean more red flags than a parade in Moscow. Investigators discovered that Roldan was the father of Bethany's unborn child. Their relationship was described as volatile, kind of like my relationship with dairy products, except way more serious. Multiple witnesses reported seeing bruises on Bethany, and she had confided in friends about Roldan's controlling behavior. The police discovered that Bethany's phone, credit cards, and bank accounts hadn't been touched since January 29th. Her Facebook, radio silence. And for a college student in 2011, that's about as suspicious as someone saying they've never seen a cat video. Here's where things get interesting. And by interesting, I mean more mysterious than why my socks keep disappearing in the dryer. Both Roldan and Bethany Decker passed polygraph tests regarding Bethany's disappearance. However, as we all know, polygraphs are about as reliable as my New Year's resolutions. If you're sitting there thinking, this can't possibly get any more complicated, oh honey, hold my evidence bag. But before we get to that bombshell, drop a comment with your theories so far. Are you team planned disappearance or team foul play? The investigation hit more dead ends than my attempts at following a GPS. No body was found. No crime scene was discovered. It was as if Bethany had vanished into thin air, leaving investigators with more questions than answers. The timeline became murkier than a mud puddle in a rainstorm. Bethany's last known movements were traced to her apartment. But after that, nothing. Nada. Zip. The kind of nothing that keeps detectives up at night and makes true crime enthusiasts like us lose sleep. But just when you think this case couldn't get any more bizarre, wait until you hear what happened years later with Ronald Roldan. It's the kind of twist that makes M. Night Shyamalan look like an amateur. Fast forward to 2014, 3 years after Bethany's disappearance. While her case remained as cold as my ex's heart, Ronald Roldan was about to make headlines again, and not in a good way. In December 2014, Roldan was involved in a domestic violence incident with his new girlfriend, Vicki Willoughby, in North Carolina. And when I say involved, I mean it turned into something more terrifying than my first attempt at parallel parking. During an altercation, Roldan allegedly shot Willoughby in the head. She survived, though she lost an eye. And in a twist worthy of a thriller novel, this incident would become the thread that started unraveling Roldan's carefully constructed facade. If you're gasping right now, go ahead and hit that like button. I'll wait. Just like investigators had to wait for their big break in this case. Following the North Carolina incident, Roldan was charged with attempted murder. But here's where it gets interesting. And by interesting, I mean more complex than my relationship with chocolate during a diet. In 2020, 9 years after Bethany's disappearance, Roldan pleaded guilty to 2 felony charges in the Willoughby case. The prosecutors had him right where they wanted him. Kind of like when your mom catches you sneaking cookies at midnight. This development caused investigators to take a fresh look at Bethany's case. They began re-interviewing witnesses, analyzing old evidence, and digging deeper than my dog when he's hiding his favorite toy. As of 2024, Bethany Anne Decker remains missing. Her unborn child would be 13 years old now. Her family continues to search for answers, holding on to hope like I hold onto the last piece of pizza. Ronald Roldan was released from prison in 2021 after serving 6 years for the attack on Willoughby. But here's the kicker. He was immediately taken into custody by Virginia authorities and charged with Bethany's abduction. Talk about karma coming around faster than a boomerang. In February 2022, Roldan pleaded guilty to second-degree murder in Bethany's case, despite her body never being found. He was sentenced to 40 years in prison, finally providing some answers to a family that had been searching for them longer than I've been searching for my missing sock. The Bethany Anne Decker case teaches us something crucial about domestic violence and the importance of recognizing warning signs. It's like they say, if something seems off, it probably is. And in this case, those red flags were waving harder than a crossing guard during rush hour. This case also highlights the crucial importance of domestic violence awareness. If you or someone you know is experiencing domestic violence, please reach out to the National Domestic Violence Hotline. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is ask for help, kind of like me finally asking for directions after being lost for 3 hours. Bethany's story, while finally having some resolution, remains a tragic reminder of how domestic violence can escalate. Her family still hopes to find her remains and give her a proper burial. It's a hope that continues to burn brighter than my phone screen at 3 a.m. If this case has touched you as much as it has touched me, and I'm not just saying that because I've gone through 3 boxes of tissues while researching it, please consider sharing this video. The more people who know about these cases, the better chance we have of preventing similar tragedies in the future. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell if you want to stay updated on more true crime cases. And hey, if you've made it this far, you're officially part of our true crime family, which is way less dysfunctional than my real family gatherings, I promise. Remember, while we may find some resolution in true crime cases, there are families still searching for answers. Keep them in your thoughts, and never stop asking questions. Because sometimes the most important question isn't what happened, but how can we prevent this from happening again? Thank you for joining me on this journey through one of Virginia's most perplexing cases. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and remember, the truth is often stranger than fiction, just like my attempts at cooking following online recipes. If you enjoyed this video, check out our other true crime cases. And remember, subscribing is free. Unlike my therapy bills after researching these cases. See you in the next one.